All right, let's get right into it. The alliance between the US and Japan, it's one of those relationships that's been a massive pillar of stability in the Indo-Pacific for decades. It kind of works quietly in the background, but trust me, it shapes security and economics on a truly global scale.
I mean, we're talking about more than 70 years. Since 1952, this partnership has been absolutely central to America's entire strategy in the region. It's a really deep, multi-layered alliance, built on shared interests and just decades and decades of cooperation. But as we all know, a strong history doesn't automatically guarantee a smooth future.
And that right there is the big question we're digging into. Because right now, this cornerstone alliance is facing a whole new set of pressures, unlike anything it's really seen before. It's being tested from the outside and from the inside, all at once. So to really get what's going on, to understand the cracks that are starting to show, we first have to look at the bedrock. Let's start with the first huge pillar of this relationship: security. This is what the entire thing was originally built on.
Okay, so at the very heart of it all is the Mutual Defense Treaty. The deal is pretty straightforward, really. The U.S. gets to station its military in one of the most strategic locations on the planet, and in return, Japan gets a rock-solid security guarantee from the world's most powerful military. This one agreement has basically defined the security landscape of the entire region for generations.
And we're not talking about some small symbolic force here. We are talking about 60,000 U.S. military personnel. Think about that number. That is a massive, tangible commitment. It's the physical proof of that security guarantee we just mentioned.
So, why is this commitment so critical? Well, it's because both countries are looking at the same map and seeing the same threats looming. You've got an increasingly assertive China making some pretty bold claims, and then you have North Korea's constant military provocations. That's a powerful reason for Washington and Tokyo to stick together.
But look, this alliance isn't just about ships and planes. That security bedrock we talked about, it supports a second, equally important pillar: a deeply, deeply intertwined economic relationship that really benefits both countries.
Let's just break this down for a second. In 2024, Japan was one of the biggest U.S. trade partners and a huge source of foreign investment, which means jobs right here in America. But this last one is absolutely crucial. Japan is the largest foreign holder of U.S. debt. To put it simply, Japan is fundamentally helping to finance the U.S. government.
And this isn't some relationship that's fading. Looking ahead, it's actually getting deeper. Japan has pledged over $500 billion in investments into America's most critical, high-tech sectors. We're talking semiconductors, AI, energy, the works. This isn't just business as usual. It's a massive bet on a shared future.
Okay, so we've established this really strong foundation, right? Security on one side, economics on the other. But now we get to the shifting tides. Because despite all that amazing cooperation, some new and very serious challenges are putting this whole thing to the test.
Whoa, you almost never hear a leader use language this strong, especially about a close ally. When Japan's own prime minister calls a U.S. policy a national crisis, you know the friction is not just real, it's severe. That quote just perfectly captures the shock that these new economic tensions are causing.
And here's why he said it. These are the numbers behind that quote. These aren't just tiny tweaks. A 50% tariff on steel, a 15% tariff on automobiles, which is like the crown jewel of the entire Japanese export economy. This is a significant economic blow, and it's coming from their most important partner.
And here's the kicker. At the exact same time Japan is dealing with all this pressure from the outside, the country's being rocked by political instability at home. The ruling party, which has been dominant for ages, has lost its majority. And now, the prime minister himself is heading for the exit. That creates a huge leadership vacuum right when they need stability the most.
So, in response to those threats from China and North Korea we mentioned earlier, Japan is making a truly historic pivot. For decades, its post-World War II constitution basically limited its military to a purely defensive role. But now it's actually moving to get a counter-strike capability, the power to hit back directly at an attacker. For Japan, this is a monumental shift.
And believe me, this isn't just talk. Japan has set a very concrete goal: double its defense budget to hit 2% of its GDP. That number might sound familiar because it's the same standard NATO allies use. This signals a fundamental change. Japan is on a path to becoming a much more serious military power on its own.
So, where does all this leave us? It's messy. The alliance is literally being pulled in two opposite directions at the same time.
It's this fascinating, really complex picture of deep cooperation happening right alongside some serious conflict.
This slide right here, this sums up the paradox perfectly. On one hand, you have military ties getting even deeper, you have stronger cooperation with South Korea, and total alignment on the China strategy. That's all great. But on the other hand, you've got these damaging tariffs, real questions about America's reliability, and all that political chaos inside Japan. The alliance is somehow strengthening and fraying at the exact same time.
And that brings us to the final question, the one that lingers over everything. The US-Japan relationship was built in a different century, for a different world. Now, with new leaders taking charge in both countries, facing a totally new set of global challenges, the real test is whether this vital partnership can reinvent itself for the future, or if these new pressures will just prove to be too much to handle.